Hello everyone, this is the story of what if Naruto's light was the only hope for Hinata's darkest movements. Cradle of the Fox. 34 years since the fourth died, 34 years since the Kyuubi was sealed inside of me, 34 years of sharing my body with that demon. 22 years since I first knew about it, 21 years since our first meeting, 19 years of hearing his thoughts inside my head, telling me to tear the flesh of my friends and enemies, 19 years of his whispering from the inside of my mind. 5 years since the last Hokage of the Leaf died, 5 years that I didn't fight for my ex-dream. 2 years after I turned down the offer to become the sixth, I'm not the Hokage, because I found what I was looking for. For the first time in my life, I didn't mind being stared by others. I was hunted by the race to become the Hokage for years, but I realized I didn't need the title. I didn't need the whole village's acknowledgement, just the people I cared about, my friends and her, Hinata. In the 10 last years I realized I'm attracted to Hinata. After one of the B-rank missions she was assigned to, she changed drastically. She got over her shyness and made herself a worth heir to the Hyuga clan, but more than that. She opened herself towards others, and soon we got together, resulting in our marriage 8 years ago and our 4-year-old girl. Everyone attended to her birthday party, Guy, Kakashi, Sakura and everyone else, besides Sasuke. His race for revenge against Itachi resulted in him joining forces with Orochimaru, but even with the sacrifice of his freedom, he couldn't avenge his clan. Sasuke's death was the starting shot for the Atsuchi plan. They visited each hidden village and tried to assassinate the Kages. Luckily for the Leaf, the 5th has sent Shikamaru's team to spy on that organization. That gave us a few days warning before they came. Tsunade called back all the Junins and had each Chunin to set up traps and escape routes filled with traps. She was the type to die easily, and she planned to live until the rock face will be perfectly sculptured to fit her imaginary image as a 25-year-old beauty contest winner. I already knew that organization lost 2 of his members, bringing them down to 6 at all. Secretly I hoped that Itachi will be one of the 3 that will come. I had to know what really happened to Sasuke. At that time I just knew he trained with Orochimaru and died. But that wasn't enough for me. I owed it to Sasuke and to the memory of the Uchiha. I had to know the truth. So I decided, the night before they came, I went out alone and visited the town they were hiding inside. I knew it was a bad idea. For the past few years I too was a target of them, but I wanted the chance to talk with Itachi before the fight. After 3 hours of sitting on a bench in the middle of a street, a small boy came. He gave me a note with the Uchiha clan symbol on it. I released that boy from the genjutsu they had cast on him and read the note. It was an invention to a moldy coffee house in the outskirts of that town. The signature was left blank. Most normal ninjas would have called for reinforcement at that situation. I'm probably the only one who would have followed the orders, even though it was the most obvious trap I ever seen. I didn't care if the 3 of them are waiting for me there. I didn't care if I'll die the moment I enter that coffee place. I could have thought about over 100 ways to set me up traps before I even came close to that place, but I really didn't care about that. I got to that coffee shop. He sat there alone. He wore a disguise and perfumed himself, but I could tell from the way he held his cup that he's a ninja. He probably didn't even try to hide from me. It was just for the show, nothing more than a way to trick the lesser ninjas around. I sat down in front of him. He said, "So you want to know about Sasuke?" I nodded. "Well, I should probably kill you, but I'll let you live to hear the story. He came to me 3 months ago. After years of hard training with Orochimaru, apparently Sasuke made a promise that he'll allow Oro to pass the curse seal to the final state only when he kills me. When I saw him, could tell easily that he has improved enough to make this fight worthwhile, so I didn't finish him right away. The fight begun with his summoning technique. As I expected, Oro has taught him to call Manda. That giant snake sure can be a nuisance, but then again, Oro has always been one. I noticed that from the beginning of the battle, Sasuke has already been relying on that seal. I guess Oro wanted him to do it more and more, that way he'll be easier to take over once he kills me. He's continued telling me how that fight went on, only stopping to take a sip of his coffee. The waitress were always young normal girls, who just thought we are 2 businessmen talking about our latest deals, except for one. She was overexcited and hyperactive, just like Anko is. There we read a lot of rumors about the new Hidden Rock Village cage. They said he was an inexperienced Anbu with no leadership skills outside of the battlefield. Most likely he decided to send all the genins to train outside of their countries. An act that no sane Kage will ever think about. After he finished his story, Itachi said, "To conclude, Uchiha Sasuke is no more, and now it's your time to leave the leaf, Nine Tails. If you can't do it yourself, then we'll just have to take you out by force." I was getting ready to fight when that waitress ninja came in shouting something about a royal princess who wandered off to this town. I used that split second to get out of that place. I wasn't enough to fight him and his friends, whoever they are. I broke into a public bath place. They must have made some plans to follow me. So I decided to get rid of the smell and everything else they could use. When I came out, I used my BP no jutsu and stole some woman's clothes. Walking around in high heels is very, very embarrassing. When morning came the next day, we were all very surprised. We knew from Shikamaru's report that they'll move in groups of 3, but we only 2 came by. We assumed they'll make a commotion and try to catch the 5th off guard, but they came in right in, without hiding themselves or doing anything sneaky. Itachi and Kisame just stood in front of the village, a rather useless ACT unless you have some hidden plan to get to the target and get far enough before anybody notices the target is gone. About that time we made our first mistake. We started to make sure that Tsunade is still around and not kidnapped yet. We focused on Tsunade and didn't notice there was one extra ninja around. Some say they saw it and thought it's Anko, for the mysterious ninja had the same kind of movement. When that ninja came close to me, I tried to tell him to go back to his post, but the words didn't come out. My sight also started to bullrush, and I felt a hand holding me from the back. I realized that the operation wasn't to kill Tsunade, but to get me, and the QB inside of me. I woke up in a dark room, tied up and examined by 6 people. I was still not in my complete senses because of the contest drugs they gave me, but I could hear one particular voice. It was the waitress from that coffee shop, but she was much older now, an Oba-san over 40 years old. She said some weird things such as, "Look how skinny he is. Who feeds the boy anyway?" And an occasional, "My late mother should be so proud." At the first weeks they just tried to make me pull out as much of the QB's chakra. They throw me off cliffs and made me walk up a waterfall. They wanted me to burn out all my chakra so they could see how much of the demon's power I can use. That was the fun part of torturing. After those weeks they combined the Monde Sharingan and high-level Genjutsu in order to make me relive each night at the place where I grew up. I never asked anyone where that place was because I never wanted to go back there. The women who worked there hated me. Even as a baby in the orphanage, they never held me up in their arms or even looked at me when they fed me. Not only that, but they also separated me from the others. I was kept in a closed room. Most of the nights I cried for hours and nobody came to check on me. I left that place at my first chance. Somebody, perhaps the third, got me a room at a ninja academy basement out of the village. I was 5 years old when that happened. I was happy that no one heard me cry anymore. It was then that I realized I'm being treated different than others. The village hired this place to take care of fallen ninjas' children and keep them in order, so most of the kids had visits from their parents' family or friends, but I didn't. I was just sitting in my room all day. It was the loneliest time of my life, and they made me relive it over and over. I was sure that reliving those days of loneliness is the best they have, but nothing Preppa read me to the shocking statement I heard from that lady one night. She whispered to me she'll tell me about my parents. I didn't think for even a second she'll tell me the truth, but whatever lies she can make up will not. I come close to the suffering I felt from reliving those memories, so I acted like I'm interested. She started her story in a slow phase, trying to make it sound real. The story of your birth begins 20 years ago. When my mother had a revolution in her dreams, she was told that the QB will come to the leaf soon and that harnessing his power will lead to the unification of the countries into a single powerful realm that can take the leading position of the strongest among them all. But for that dream to come true, the demon must be caught inside a container, so that his power will not be wasted on senseless destruction, but on building the new kingdom. So I went to the leaf and the lady's facial expression suddenly changed. Her face weren't cold anymore, but soft and full of mother love. Her movements changed from dangerous and venomous to a gentle step, often seen in young careless girls. The fearsome thing wasn't the change, but the fact she didn't use Henge no Jutsu or even changed a single strand of hair, but it still seemed that a new person bloomed out of her. She touched my cheek softly, I went out to seek the best man to become the father of the container. He had to be strong and skilled, not to mention good-looking. Giggle. I easily found someone who matched those requirements. I made him fall in love with me, and soon we became lovers, but nobody knew about us. I got him to swear not to mention it to anyone. I didn't want people snooping around on me. The plan was very complicated. If I was discovered, I would be killed on the spot, and so. 16 years ago I took the special elixir which made me pregnant the next time I was with him. My mother's careful calculations were right, and I gave birth the day the QB came, just in time. To offer you as the container for the demon. The fourth probably thought I'm willing to give everything I have for the village which I love so much. He didn't know what my plan really was. I snuck out of the village that night. And since your father died that night, nobody knew who you were, so I left you there, to grow and become strong like your father, and swore to take you when you'll be ready. Her story was finished. I forgot it was just a story she used to get me out of balance. I completely collapsed. I couldn't breathe right. I managed to whisper, "Are you my mother?" She looked me straight in my eyes and said, "Yes, my son. I am." That's the last thing I remember from there. The rest of the time passed in a haze. I wasn't sure what is real anymore. I wasn't sure if I'm asleep or awake. I didn't know if I'm even alive. That story banged through my head as well as the memories, and now even more horrific memories appeared. The hardest one was a blur picture of someone standing before me and my new mom at the back. It was inside a cave filled with blood. It was a rainy night and the stench of death rose from the outside. Theater no jutsu. I don't know when, how or by whom I was saved. I never wanted to know what went on inside that cave where they kept me. There were no scars left because of the Nine Tails' power, but the order of elements in the seal has changed. Nobody knew what it meant. Nobody talked about it. I woke up in a hospital bed. I could smell there were people around me. I couldn't recognize even one of them. Some of them touched me gently. I wondered why did Itachi and his friends used such a low-level theater-like genjutsu moves. I didn't see what they could gain by making me think I'm free. It was completely senseless. That's why I was so suspicious. I never forgot what Kakashi strived so hard to teach me. A ninja must always look beneath the underneath. A shinobi must search for the true reason why things are done. Days came and passed. Each day, I felt my body healing from the past torturing. My eyesight came back to me. I could hear sound fragments and my tongue started to move again. Each day some people came and some left my side. Some PLE would leave for over a week and come back. Some would come in certain hours each day. There was always a dark-looking character around. Each time I woke up, I could see it, not close to me but never letting the eyes off me. Those eyes had a strange feeling, like they were staring right inside my soul, and crying. Days kept on passing. My body has fully healed, but I still didn't see those people faces or hear their voices. I hated that bed. I hated the low-grade genjutsu. I hated the pain of going day by day with many people, but still alone. I understood finally what's the purpose of this. I was sure they want me to make my move and try to escape. They wanted me to use the QB's power to run away. I knew all of it, and I didn't care. I just wanted to run from that illusion. I would have rather relive my childhood a million times again. I would prefer to hear that story each breath I take. I didn't want to be stuck in that genjutsu anymore, so I didn't care. I was doing everything they wanted me to. The next night, or what they made me to think was night, is when I made my move. I jumped out of bed. Strangely, I landed a few parts of the second earlier than usual. It must have been a short bed. I stretched my body for a minute. I knew that even it was an illusion, it's still all the time I would have until I stopped running, and I wasn't planning to do it before I fall down. I started running. The dark character heard me and stood up. I could now see it was a female, a bit shorter than me. She called my name in a silenced familiar voice, but I didn't stop. She tried to stop me with an open hand fist. For a moment I felt my organs exploding, but the hit wasn't strong enough to stop me. I ran past her, ignoring her silence cry for me. I easily found my way out of the building. The surroundings were awkwardly familiar, and my legs took me by their own to a field near that area. The field looked like a training ground for lower than qualified ninjas, like the place I become a. I couldn't keep moving, since I didn't eat on my own. They had to feed me through the bloodline, but the QB power healed the needle's wounds and so I got only a minimal amount of neutrinos every day. I collapsed once more, wishing for death to come and take me quickly. Once again I woke up in that room. This time there were more people around, not just the ones who were usually around, but also 4 more guys, all of them wearing masks and trying to look scary. Those 4 weren't the only ones with a mask. One of the regular also wore a mask, but he didn't try to look scary. He held a book in his hand, but he didn't seem to read it today. I heard a female voice. I need to talk you in privacy, so everybody else, get out, even though she didn't seem to be over 30 years old. They stood up and left the room with no complaints. The 2 who stayed were the masked guy with the book and a white-haired old man. She told them, he might be lost for good, he's fine psychically, but he's traumatized for life. I'm not sure how long can he survive without starting to eat normally. Now when his body is healed, the needles are rejected even faster than before. And we can't even start to understand what did they do to him for the past 3 years. When we rescued him we couldn't even recognize him. More than half of his bones were missing, and the brain activity changed drastically. As if he's still alive and moving. They all looked down on me, tears in their eyes. I'm afraid you are right. Without the necklace, we wouldn't even know it's him. The old man said, yes, the necklace. Another life which she has taken away, she replied crying. I felt her hand on my chest. Her strong fingers were trembling. She grabbed the necklace, my necklace, the necklace which I won from Tsunade by performing the Rasengan in 1 week. Real life or illusion? I wasn't going to let anybody take it away from me. I grabbed her hand. She gaped in surprise, and so did they. The 3 looked strong. Defiantly more than this weakened state of myself. I knew I couldn't beat them, so I tried to run away again. When I got to the door could hear the other guys talk, but I couldn't figure out the words. The woman finally came to her senses and shouted, stop him, we have to get him out of that state. They reacted immediately. A guy with a French beard was the first to move. He made some sort of seal and his shadow stuck to mine and immobilized me. They all looked at me with a pity eyes. I've been stared at ever since I was born, but this exasperation was new, a sad eyes that is saved for near-death puppies combined with a hollow glance you use when you find out there is no ramen left. I took this chance to look at them. They seemed to be familiar with me at some way, maybe Itachi's friends. A girl with a long hair said, I'm gone. Get inside that mind of his and check what's going on. She performed few seals as well and fallen to the ground. I suddenly felt a strange force inside my head, pushing my own consciousness back to the deep part of my head, the part where the QB dwells. So, I wondered when you're gone, come to me boy. It's been a few years since you asked me for strength to protect someone. What happened? Did they all die? The fox laughed at me, reminding me how I failed to save so many, and first of all, both of them. The one who believed in my power and the one which the same power made him stray. Shut up. I don't need your destruction blabber. I have to stay sane enough. The leaf will find me someday. They won't let me down. The fox demon smirked and said, those who dig too deep to escape the darkness won't see the sunlight when the morning comes. I felt the burst of the QB's power inside coming up to my mind, cleaning it from the genjutsu effects. Cleaning it from the other mind, cleaning it from my thoughts. I fell down to the floor, looking at my friends' grown-up faces, trying to guess how long has it been. For the last time, I woke up in the same room. I looked around and saw them. Kakashi, Guy, Tsunade and Jiraiya were easy to recognize. Lee was still trying to look like Guy, and it seems he's finally healed from the fight with Gaara at that Chunin exam. Shikamaru still looks like a lazy bum, just older, and Ino still has the same attitude, but she seemed to be much sadder than before. Beside her was Neji. He held her close to him. I wondered what happened between them. Shino and Kaiba were easy to identify. The dog and the black coat and sunglass gave them away. Hinata was still shy as ever. I realized she was the girl who always stayed by my side. The last were Tenten, which sat close to Tsunade, and Sakura, which tears went down her face as usual. I rose my hand up and said, hey guys, what up? It took me 2 months to realize what happened. 3 years ago I was captured and held hostage by the Akatsuki organization. The village was about to give up hope when a sudden explosion happened at the mountains a month ago. Choji went to check what happened. He came back with kunais and shurikens stuck in him. He told Ino that he met with Itachi and another one. Both of them were badly hurt, so he managed to get back to the leaf. He died from his wounds 5 hours later, since Tsunade has went to search for me and Shinzun's skills weren't enough. That's not the only reason, Ino cried. She found out that Choji was on a no-food diet for the 3 months before that because he wanted to ask her out. Tsunade said that if he wouldn't have done it then he could have lived today. The explosion they mentioned got me curious. So I went and asked the Toad Sennin about it. He said it was one of the Yoma chakras and it appears that one of them will rise again in the following year. He said Tsunade has agreed to speed up the Chunins and Junin's training so we will be ready when the demon comes. I asked Jiraiya if he has a plan to defeat the monster but he said I should worry about getting back to myself before I worry about anything else. I guess he was right. I have been out of shape for a long time, and I still needed to complete the Junin's exam. But before that I wanted to talk with Hinata. Since I woke up she has been avoiding me. I really wished to get a chance to thank her for staying by my side. I looked for her the whole day but she wasn't around. I asked Neji about her and He said she has been sent on some remote B-ranked mission at the end of the known world. Something about beating a giant whale to death without harming his outer body. The mission should take more than a year to finish. But most of the time is traveling and searching for the whale. In some odd way, I was both depressed and relieved from the news. I really wished to talk to her, but on the other side, I was strangely calm as I knew she'll be out of danger. The year has passed in a flash. I got the Junin title and trained hard. I hardly met anyone that year. I spent all my time training, but even so, I couldn't stop worrying about the demon. Not even Gamabunta the Great Toad could hold on his own against a true demon. The only way we could have a chance is by calling the Kyuubi from inside of me. But I couldn't gather enough of his chakra. Oddly Jiraiya and Tsunade seemed to be quite relaxed. I couldn't stop thinking about the changed form of the seal, and surprisingly, I couldn't stop thinking about Hinata. Winter came and with him the stormy nights, and like in a bad fairy tale story, the demon came in the cloudiest, darkest, rainiest night of the winter. The shouters has sound the alarm and we have been on our way. Most of us never saw a real demon ever. Even the old ones who fought the Kyuubi 28 years ago said that demons are just not normal shinobi's challenge. They are big, evil and scary. That's how most of them refer to them, but I knew the truth. Those demons are much worse. Just the sound of the Kyuubi sends chills down my spine. His eyes are like black holes. They aim to beep away all the light from around you. As I stepped towards the monster I saw her again, that woman, my mom. She was standing there, staring at the moon like a maiden, but I spent so many days listening to her. I knew she was well aware to what happens around her. She is the one who created the Akatsuki organization. Her childish behavior was just a mask to the deeper evil inside of her, the deepest evil an human can achieve. So, here's a tip from Mama. She said without moving, trust the power of that seal. Release it and allow it overflow you. Let the Kyuubi take control. You won't Avenue a chance to protect the village otherwise, and you know it, she added. Kill her. I popped out my kunai and then I realized what I'm doing. Kill her. She's to blame for the cold eyes. Cut her head open. The hatred in the voice was inhuman. It contained the pain of an eternal bird sealed into a rusty cage. I understood that the Kyuubi really despises her. It was a new concept for me, since the fox never expressed these feelings to me. He laughed at me. He suggested killing methods, but even when hearing about the fourth he stayed calm. But this woman was like a red cloth in his eyes. I felt the seal burning. The fox was trying to throw himself out of me and take her down. Well, I'll be going now. I'll see you again. Bye-bye. She said. I'm not sure whose idea it was, but I picked up my shurikens and threw them at her. The moment they hit her she disappeared. I recognized that technique. It was the cage bunshin, and a steady clone as well. Demon, departure, return. Screams from the Val. Lei reminded me I should be fighting the demon and not wasting time on her. I ran to the battlefield and I saw the monster. It was a giant two-headed panda bear. He noticed my presence and looked at me. I could hear his voice booming inside my head. So, this is the great Kyuubi. I guess you deserve it. I hope you two have fun. Did you take the control yet? His voice was as scary as the Kyuubi's but it lacked the nonchalant tune. Oh. It's him, the panda. I hoped it'll be someone else. Well, I guess that's my luck. Being stuck in a kid and being mocked for that. Hey, Naruto, what are you waiting for? Go beat that panda ass. Hearing those words made me feel slightly better. I was afraid the Kyuubi will try to force me to join forces with the demon. I created a clone and ran into battle. There were a few bodies around. But nobody that I knew. Probably just new Chunins which passed while I was gone. Neji was also fighting the bear. He tried to aim at the chakra-producing organs, but the bear had his own chakra wall beneath his skin, so it was useless. I tapped into the Kyuubi's power. It felt different than before. I tried storming at the panda, but with no use. That's not working. He's almost at my level. You'll need to release everything from me just to cut a normal wound in him. I knew he was right, but my mother's voice still waved on inside my mind. I didn't want to let the Kyuubi take control. It can turn out a disaster as much as the panda can be, but I knew I needed somebody as big as the bear. I summoned Gambunta, the boss toad. Hey punk, what do you think this is? You don't call me for 5 years and then you expect me to fight this thing. What are you, crazy? His weird accent still made me laugh. Oh, shut up you frog. It's not some petty shower peeking here. That thing is one of the demons. I'm telling you to fight him. After being tortured by the Akatsuki, and hearing 2 demons talk inside my head, I was more confident about my plan. The fat toad could complain as much as he wants. It won't change my plans. Who do you think you're talking to? I should pluck that head of yours for the insults. Even the 4th was smart enough not to do it. So much unlike you disrespectful brat. The giant toad kept on going, but I didn't care. I jumped to his head, and called out the Kyuubi's chakra. I put my hands on the frog and forced the chakra inside him. He started screaming when the fox spirit took over his body. Thanks for the chance, kid. Now I can settle my business with that oversized 4-eyed bear, said the fox from inside of the toad's body. He transformed himself to the 9-tails form. I started to feel pain through the seal. I didn't know what it means, but I also was too concerned with the fight to worry about it. The Kyuubi jumped at the panda and they stared, whirling around each other, ignoring all the ninjas. They were both at another level, way out of our league. The fight lasted 3 hours before I couldn't keep up with their movements. With the fox power gone into the toad, I had to rely on myself to dodge the bear's attacks which were meant for me. After those 3 hours was all worn out and fell to the ground. I woke up at the field that morning. I could see 2 giant bodies lying around. One was the panda demon, the other was the boss toad. Once the Kyuubi's power left him, he didn't have a chance to recover from these wounds. Jiraiya was there. I avoided him. I didn't want to tell him I forced Gambunta to fight. I didn't want him to know I released the Kyuubi's power and allowed him to act free. I called the fox demon, but I heard no answer. He was tired from the fight as well. I dragged myself around. Besides from corpses, I was the only left shinobi. I didn't know what to do. The right thing to do was probably to go back to the village. But I hated the idea of my friends staring at me, knowing what I am, wondering when am I going to unleash the demon again. I started walking to the north. After a few weeks I came across the Sound Village. With Orochimaru's crazy ambitions for learning all the jutsus, the village was struggling to survive. Both the leaf and the sand were trying to finish the village constantly. I decided to check out what's going on there. Maybe I'll meet Orochimaru and kick his ass. I wasn't thinking right that time, walking into an enemy village with no disguise or a plan whatsoever. The village was poor and minor ninjas were running around in scared eyes. I asked one of them to point me to the ramen shop. I sat down and it reminded me of the times I sat with Iruka back then, before he died. So, what are you doing here? Last time I heard you were a missing nin with a bring back alive status. I turned my head and saw it was Kabuto. And how are you doing? Still playing the nurse for Oro. He laughed. Nope, I'm the acting cage of the Sound now. And what are you doing here? I don't think you came all this way for ramen, he responded back. Well, you are right, I have nothing to do here. I'll be on my way now. I left the Sound and kept walking east. I wandered across many places, until I found myself at the water country. It has finally been developing. I sat down and watch people and cargo move on the Great Naruto Bridge. On that bridge I first released the Kyuubi. On that place I decided about my ninja way. But that was long ago, when I was young and innocent, when I believed I can do anything. Before I realized the pain of being a shinobi, when I was happy. Weeks have passed while I sat and watched the bridge. I crossed it many times. I heard kids run and play. I even think I saw Inari. But I didn't talk to him. He wouldn't recognize me anymore. I've changed since then. I am now like he was once, and he's probably full of shit about being a hero, just like I was years ago. His grandfather is most likely still planning bridges around the water country. As I sat there and pondered my past, a little boy came and asked me why was I sitting at the spot for the last month. I didn't have an answer, so I left again, to find whatever I'm looking for. As I passed the bridge and headed north, I read the sign which announced the bridge name and quoted what Kai's told Inari, "If you're a man, live a life of no regret, and protect what you love with both hands." There was a time when I believed in those words, but that time has passed. All I had left was a wish for death, my death. My travels across the land has brought me to a near-sea town at the Cloud Country. It was apparently some big festival, because someone turned 15 that day, and his rich family tradition was to catch a whale for the party. They did it because they were rich and bored. The commoners partied just to get a day off work. I entered the town and walked the street alone. Sal's men were shouting about big discounts and high quality. 3 kids even tried to pick my wallet, but I carried nothing with me, so they just wasted their time, and I didn't want to cause a commotion by catching them. More than anything else, I wanted to be left alone, never having people staring or avoiding staring at me. There was a mirror shop at that place. The shopkeeper had a nice set of non-straight mirrors which made you look thinner, an old but effective trick, especially against women. I looked at my reflection at a normal mirror. I have changed so much since I was a kid, both from my inside and from my outside. I wasn't even close to what I used to be. My blonde hair lost his vitality and spikiness. My eyes lost their spark and passion. Even if I possessed the same traits as before, I was different. And it was impossible to make a connection between the boy I used to be and the man I grew to be. The crowd started to scream and clap their hands. The teenage boy was making a lap, showing the whale he captured. The person who carried the whale was a female shinobi. She didn't wear a headband, so I had no idea where she was from, but she was beautiful and I felt an urge to meet her. Just to talk with someone like myself. I followed their group, changing my looks each time with Henge no Jutsu. She was a Junin, and she had 2 Chunins following her. They all kept their eyes hidden beneath a cloth. Perhaps they were training in some form of blind fighting. Anyhow, that night they left after getting paid. I followed them from a safe distance. I made sure I wasn't spotted at daytime and closed the distance during night time. I spent 3 weeks doing so, sleeping only an hour each day. At that hour they got me. I couldn't believe I allowed them to catch me. I was sure I'm out of their sight by miles, and I changed my form each day. They couldn't possibly know I was tailing them, but once they captured me, I enjoyed being with another ninja. I didn't realize until then how much I missed the life of a shinobi. I loved the excitement of the mouse and cat chase. They tied me and tried to investigate me using genjutsu. The Junin has some talent but nothing compared to Sakura's skill. But I acted like I'm affected by it. I didn't want to reveal myself completely to them, so I said, "I'll talk. Just stop the torturing." That's when they started their integration, which lasted all night. "What's your name?" they asked. "I'm Rosin of the Sand. Please, let me go." I told them, "There is no Rosin. Not in the sand and not anywhere. You don't have any weapons or equipment. So you have to be a missing nin," she said sharply. One of the Chunins jumped in and said, "You should come and look at this." I made arrangements to check for missing nins with the same body structure of this one and came upon a very interesting thing. The Junin talked with him silently and said, "So, now this is getting better." Trying to pose as the Leaf's S-ranked missing nin, Naruto Uzumaki with that skill. "Who sent you and what were you planning to do with the low-level imitation of him?" "Me, a wanted missing nin. Who could have ordered such a thing?" Tsunade was the only one who had that privilege. But it made no sense to do so. I was missing, but I have nor committed any crimes special to shinobis or sold out information to enemy villages. My statue should have been AD ranked at the worst case. It wasn't the mission or the eye cloths which made me wonder about whom that Junin really was. She talked as if she knew me, and there was exposed anger when she talked about me. Like she was furious about the thought of someone trying to pass as me. The following week passed with non-stop interrogation of me, but the more they tried to make me talk, I found out more about them, for my great surprise. The Junin and one of the Chunins were from the Leaf and the other Chunin was from the Sand. The Kage has sent him with them as a favor to the Hokage. The girl was on some sort of special mission to prove herself worthy to inherit something. The whale catching was a cover-up story for the true challenge. After that week, the Sand was the only one who interrogated me. The Junin probably realized I pumped some information from them, so she stopped trying. The sand wasn't so bright and was easy to read, but he knew nothing about the true mission or the girl, even though he was filled with stories about Gaara, the best Junin of the sand, so I convinced him to tell me about him. It made the journey a little less boring. We arrived shortly to a building. It was a ninja torture chamber. I guessed it was inside the sand village, but the decorator didn't put anything inside that could support my instincts. A dark guy came out of the shadows. He was carrying a maul-like object. It wasn't hard to recognize him, he said, so the leaf couldn't break you. You'll soon find out just how horrific is the fine art of terror which the sand is known for. He looked at some papers and continued talking. So, No Eyes said you're trying to be Naruto Uzumaki from the leaf. I met him once. You do resemble him physically, but nowhere near him in the attitude. That guy was one of Ki. Just shut up. You talked about true terror. Did you mean your stupid memories from that exam? I barged in and then understood I said too much. So, you know a bit more than the dumb act you played before. Let's see what else you can say. He grinded. I might actually break you before No Eyes leaves. My eyes lit. Was that girl still around? That meant I can follow her again. I wasn't sure why. But I really wanted to do it. I quickly released myself and stormed at him. The real him, not just the doll he used. When I hit that object, it turned to another doll. I searched for the true him while dodging his attacks. There were no other objects around, and I had no way of following the source without summoning toads, but that jutsu was lost forever with Gamabunta dead. I knew T. Had if I take too long he'll call for help, and I'll have no chance to follow that girl. I used my cage bunshin and filled the room with clones. After that I started digging through the floor. The NES will disappear once they're hid or after an hour or so. It'll be enough time for me to sneak near the girl's bag and transform myself as something inside it. Super wanted Naruto. When I got to Leaf I was still inside the bag. So my senses weren't even 10th of their usual, so I could barely hear where I am. Suddenly I felt I was being turned upside down and I fell to the ground. I released T. Henga no Jutsu and came back to my normal form. I saw the girl I have been following talking with Neji. She had let go of her blindfold and looked at me. Her eyes were as blank as Neji's. I didn't know that Hinata and Neji had any more siblings at the same age group. The girl said, "So, I was wondering how much time you were going to stay there. It was a long trip since I left the sand, wasn't it? It's time you started talking. Who are you and why did you follow her? Are you planning to assassinate the fifth?" Neji added, "I have no interest in that hag." I answered, "I don't like this guy. You should call the Anbu team. We need to know what's up with him soon." Neji told that girl, "I didn't care about Tsunade, but I knew I won't be able to keep my act on for long, so I rather be in the best position I can when the truth comes out." 6 Anbu members came to pick me. None of them even tried to look at me. As we walked I realized there were people staring at me, but I didn't mind it. I lost my heart, feelings and dreams long ago. I was just doing what I thought is the best thing to do for the moment. They took me to the Hokage's room. She was sitting there silently. Kakashi was sitting next to her. Kakashi was the first to speak. "We didn't see you for quite a time. I didn't think you'll end up like this. I can barely believe it's you. After the battle with the panda demon nobody knew where you are. Half of the elders said you released the Kyuubi and you should be put to death. They think you finally lost yourself," Tsunade said. "Maybe they are right. It's not impossible, but what would you do if I did?" I asked them. They both looked at me with disbelieving eyes. None of them thought I'll turn out like this. Tsunade continued, "If we let you go, what are you planning to do? Will you continue spying after Hinata?" Hinata, what was her connection to me now? I haven't seen her in over 2 years. It struck me like lightning, that girl. That's Hinata. Kakashi started laughing. "So, there's still a part of the old Naruto out there. You really didn't understand it. She might have changed a bit but for you not to recognize her. What kind of idiot are you?" I felt like a kid again. Arguing with him. How can I recognize her? She doesn't even act like herself anymore. She stopped doing that finger thing and she doesn't avoid eye contact now. Tsunade got back into the converse. Ion and said, "You haven't been your normal self either. You don't eat ramen or talk about being Hokage. I gave up on that dream when I gave up on this village. Nothing will change that." I turned the talk serious again. I wasn't planning to stay at the Leaf. All I wanted to do was to meet up Sakura and talk a bit with Hinata, just apologize to her about following her to the Leaf, Kakashi thought. For a minute and said, I guess we can let you meet up with everybody, but it'll be hard to release you afterwards. I sat back and said silently, I'm not going to stay here, and you can't make me, if you try. I will kill you both. Tsunade was mad when she heard me. So, you're still the same brat like the one you were when we first met, all bronze and no brain. You really think you can kill us? I could smell the fear from her. She was like a bear in a trap. A wrong move and I'll be forced to kill her. Oh, I wanted to ask you something. Why did you announce me as AS rank missing nin? I tried to change the subject, Kakashi cited. I guess it wasn't the right topic to discuss right now. Tsunade's answer was harsh and painful. The demon you released back then was more than any of has imagined. We knew that you could call his chakra out and it heals you quickly, but calling out the essence of the Kyuubi in Gamabunta's form was about all we could stand. There are over 20 shinobis who are bound to the Toad contract. Each one of them is an above Junin level. After that fight, they all lost the ability to summon frogs. With the boss Toad dead, they found out you were responsible and stormed the Leaf demanding my head. You know I can't leave the village at a time like this, so, you promised them you'll put all the efforts in catching and killing me. No problem, I understand. You had to save your life, I said. Swearing her inside, the third would have fought for me, but she was different. Oh, wouldn't it be a little inconvenient for you if I escaped now? I don't think those shinobis would give you a second chance to capture me. That sure does put you in a hard state. Kakashi stepped in the conversion. Maybe we should allow Naruto to meet his friends while we decide what to do with him. Tsunade nodded. Good idea, Kakashi. Can I trust that you won't try anything stupid, Naruto? I made the most innocent face I could. I can promise you I won't do anything until you tell me what you decided. After that, it's another story. You should leave Anbu members around if it makes you feel better. After 3 hours Sakura came to visit me. She didn't pass the Junin exams. Even though she was one of the best genjutsu masters at the Leaf in the whole land, she didn't have many missions to do, so she spent her time as an instructor at the academy. The fifth told me you wanted to talk with me. But just who are you? She asked. I should have expected it. I didn't look like myself anymore. Try picturing me 6 years younger, and hyperactive. That should be enough for you. Sakura-chan. She looked at me with a non-believing stare. No way. Naruto. Is that you? She asked. All of her serious face was gone. Where have you been? What happened to you? Why did you leave us? She cried. She has been in a hard mental state ever since Sasuke joined with Orochimaru. When the Leaf's spy brought the news that other day, she collapsed. She carried that scar at her heart. She caused her romance life to be crazy from the beginning. She dated shinobis and other people from nearby villages. None of her relationships lasted long. Her obsession has driven everybody away, but her relationship with Lee was the worst. She insisted on him quitting the life of a shinobi. She said she didn't want to see him get hurt again. He said that he can't give up on his dreams and that he'll keep pushing himself to prove his ninja way. They broke up and got back together at least 6 times a year. We talked for hours. Kakashi dropped by and brought us some sake and ramen. We all sat in. D brought back memories from the old times when we were still Team 7. At the following day I asked Kakashi to ask for Hinata to come. I wasn't sure why I did it. I thought I just wanted to apologize to her about the way I behaved. I promised myself I'll keep my cools at the talk, that I won't let any emotion escape. Hinata came to the room. She looked so different than how she used to be. D long hair and Bakugan eyes were held high, nothing like the shy Hinata I remembered. Humph. So you got some special treatment from the fifth and you think you can act like you own the village? She almost shouted. Against my will I smiled to her. Wow, I never imagined you shouting at me. This sure is surprising. You've changed so much since we last met. Don't talk like you know anything about me. If it wasn't for Kakashi I would never come and meet you. She lost her temper quickly. I guessed she didn't like the fact I treated her like a kid. Let's cool down. Okay. No need to verbally abuse me. What were you doing at the whale catching party anyway? I asked her. She looked straight into my eyes and said, the Hyuga clan's business should not concern you. I had just about more than I need to hear from you. She left the room. I wanted to follow her, but I didn't think I could make the Anbu team see my side of the story, and I promised Tsunade I won't try to escape just yet. Tsunade and an Anbu stepped inside. She dropped a scroll to me and left. I opened it and started reading. It was a statement that I was caught and I will be sent to some remote part of the fire country where the ex-toad summoners can kill me. The statement has already been released. I would be put to death the next night. So why are you here, guy? I asked the Anbu. Well, I'm here because of Kakashi. 2 hours ago he asked me for a match. And made me promise I'll do something for him if I lose, and that's how I got here. I smiled. You lost another rock-paper-scissors match. Or was it something else? His face went down. It was a coin-tossing bet. I didn't notice he checked the coin's reflection on the floor with the Sharingan, so it was a straight win for him. He almost cried, thick as ever. So what did Kakashi ask you to do? He told me he wanted me to sneak out a prisoner, but I never guessed it'll be you. He answered me, he just crossed the line. If he'll be caught he'll be treated as a spy. I've arranged for a distraction. But you'll have to escape on your own. The contact man will get you to a safe hold, and that will be the last time you'll come close to the leaf ever again. You must understand it. I nodded. My presence was a burden on the leaf. I always was just a relic of the past. My actions were a stain on the leaf's honor, and they had to get rid of me. After the operation, the leaf will deny any connection to my escape and ignore me completely. Nighttime came. They tied me up and blindfolded me. Tsunade threw me at them herself, the signal for me to start my escape. It was when I sense a genjutsu come to effect. That's all Guy told me. I was supposed to escape on my own. The genjutsu was only to keep them off my back for a while and the contact man was just to bring me to the safe house, nothing more. Most shinobis would consider it an impossible mission, a suicidal course. It really was. The only one who knew who was involved was Guy, but I was sure the genjutsu user will be Sakura. The contact man will probably be someone I never met before, and he'll know nothing about me. The frog summoners came. They looked pretty strong, but I didn't believe any of them has summoned Gamabunta even once. They threw me into a carriage. They started kicking me immediately. Most of them counted on that summon as their main jutsu. After a few hours I felt the genjutsu kicking into effect. I didn't have much time. I tore of the ropes and jumped out. The genjutsu will give me just enough time to get away from their sights, but then they'll come after me. I kept running, memorizing the spot where my contact man should meet me. I got there in 3 hours. The toad summoners have probably sent men to the leaf, and Tsunade probably gave them permission to search all over the village. 3 shurikens were thrown at me. I got worried. The contact man was supposed to throw them besides me. He must have been a complete failure. I picked them up and cut myself. He jumped from the trees and landed next to me. Hinata, what was that for? I asked her. I was surprised to see she was my contact man. It's you again. Why did Guy and Kakashi try so hard to help? She almost screamed, but she started running towards the safe house. I followed her and said, I'll tell you everything when we get there. If they catch us the whole leaf will be in danger. I promised her while we ran. After 5 hours of running we got there. It was a hidden cave behind a waterfall. It used to be a part of a mine years ago, so even if they found out about the place, I would be able to escape through one of the many exits. Hyuga Kaiten. I promised I'd tell you the truth when we get here, so take a seat. It's not a short one. I said, the truth is that I'm from the leaf. My name is Naruto, Uzumaki Naruto. You left on the whale-catching mission before I could talk to you, so it makes over 6 years since our last real conversation. You know only parts of the true story. It all begins with the appearance of the Nine-Tails demon at the year we were born. Everybody told us that the fourth killed him and lost his life afterwards, but it's not what happened. The fourth has sealed the QB inside a newborn. Inside me. I showed her the seal. Her eyes could see there was a different kind of chakra inside it. I told her about what Mitsuki said to me, about what happened with Orochimaru at the Chunin exam. I told her about the training I did with Jiraiya, and about my fight with Gaara, even about what happened while I was held captive. We talked all day. I didn't notice how the sun rose and set. Only at dawn I realized we were talking for over 24 hours. I suggested that she'll go back to the village. She didn't want to, but I made her go. She promised that she'll come back at the first chance. After she left I saw my reflection at a small pond. I didn't realize I was crying. At the following year I spent my days at that abandoned mine. Hinata came to visit me each week. There were times she stayed with me for days. We talked about everything. She brought me news from the leaf and outside world. I knew she was risking everything she had by seeing me, but her visits were the only spots of light I had. So I cherished each moment with her as if it's the last, because it could have been. One day, 6 hours after she left, I heard somebody walking at the mine. I knew it wasn't Hinata. Her shoes made a special sound. I heard the sound of her shoes even in my dreams. I tried to jump that guy but I couldn't move. It didn't take me long to realize what happened. You can release the shadow. I'm coming out, Shikamaru. So you are the guy Hinata has been visiting. Can't figure what she sees in you. What's so great about someone who lives in a cave? He asked. You're as annoying as ever. You didn't change a bit. How did you found me? I told him. Hinata was coming here every week. She also refused going on dates. So I got curious and followed her here. You two are quite friendly with each other if she stayed at this dump for 3 days just to be with you. It makes me wonder what will happen if I told Neji about it. I don't think he'll like the fact that his cousin is hanging out with the likes of you. His answer got me mad. If you dare to touch one hair of her head, I'll hunt you down and kill you. No shadow jutsu could stop me from doing it. I shouted at him. Good, so you have some passion. Why are you here? He said calmly. You must be pretty sure in your abilities to say that thing. Do you think you can beat a special Junin of the tactic division? Hinata told me about it. He was promoted to that position 2 months ago. He acted as he didn't care, but it was no secret he has been aiming to that position for a long time. But anyway, I'm not here looking for a fight. And you aren't in a position you can just kill anyone who comes by, he continued. Right as always. Fighting won't do any of us any good. I agreed. It was useless to kill him, and it would anger Hinata. I never wanted to be away from her. Well, so how's your new job? I asked him. I hoped I could talk with him once a while. I suspected that Hinata was hiding some news from me. She didn't want to make me feel bad, so she hid them from me. I didn't push her to talk about it. We kept talking for a few hours. He told me that Tsunade's health condition was getting worse. She couldn't keep her young age jutsu active all day anymore, and there were rumors and bets about the identity of the 6th. Hinata's visits continued, but I felt she was keeping something a secret from me. I asked Shikamaru about it. He told me everything I asked him to, and he never asked who I was. Maybe he knew, but he didn't show any sign of interest. Oh, it's no surprise she didn't tell you about it. You see. The point is that her sister was checked, and she can't bring babies for some reason, so the main house of Hyuga continuity relies on Hinata. They wouldn't be so worried at normal times, but because of you. She lacks any interest in other men. Her old man thinks she needs to be guided to marriage. He started looking for potential candidates who have some Hyuga blood inside them. He's afraid that if her children won't have the Bakugan ability, then Neji's descendants will become the new main house. The wheels inside my brain started working. I asked him to keep me updated with those candidates. It was my chance to get back to the leaf. After 3 months he came back with news about it. Her father has narrowed the list down to 5. All of them were 7th degree cousins of Hinata. All of them were either Chunins or Junins, and her father never met any of them. He told me he'll pull some strings so I'll be able to take the place of one of them. I told Hinata about our plan the next time she came. We worked the details together and agreed that all contact between us will be done through Shikamaru. He came to me the next week, and informed me that from this day on, my name is Kaiten from the Mist. He arranged a teacher from the Mist Village to teach me all the Mist Jutsus. I had to perfect them and many more so I could disguise well as a Mist Shinobi. The next problem was to make sure no one could recognize me. I had doctors from around the country using needles and acupuncture points to change my looks. I suddenly lost 3 centimeters in height. Some herbal genius gave me a mix of weeds that was supposed to color my hair black. I looked much more like Zabuza than like me. It wasn't perfect, but there was no chance anyone will recognize me. I entered the leaf as I planned with Shikamaru. The 4 other candidates were already there. They came from the grass and the rock villages. From what Shikamaru told me I already knew they were normal Junins, better than Chunin. But not the type which does the important missions. All I needed to do was to be in good relationship with Hinata. After that I'll be a part of the leaf again, and finally a complete part in Hinata's life. It went on perfectly. Hinata quickly found ways to argue with the other guys in front of her father, and the 4 of them were sent home at the first month, while Hinata and I were always together, luckily for us. Her father asked me to join her in the missions she had. That was the time we could truly talk. At the village there were other shinobis, so we couldn't get too personal with each other. After 6 months we got married. As Hinata's husband I was also an official member of the Leaf. One day I was assigned to go check about a new cabin someone built at the woods. It was a C rank mission at best. They just wanted to wait a few years until they started giving me real missions, but I knew I should do everything they asked me to. I got to the cabin at noon. I didn't expect a NY1 suspicious to be there, so I didn't try to hide my presence. There were 2 people at the cabin. I knew both of them too well. So, you're the newcomer of the Hyuga. Your poor wife will be a widow soon. Once I slash you to pieces, one of them said. He was a missing nin. I haven't seen him for the last 4 years. His name was Kisame. Call your friends out. I got some unfinished business with you, I said. Oh, Kaiden the mighty 3rd class ninja thinks he can take me out. Trying to impress the Hokage. It's funny to see a bug such as you trying to be the 6th. He laughed at me. Shut up, it's not Kaiden you're fighting. The name is Naruto, Uzumaki Naruto, and none of you is going to see tomorrow. It has no connection to that hag. My report will be that the cabin was empty. What happens here is a between us. For what you done to me, I responded, flashing the seal at his face. Itachi, we have some company here. It's the 9 Tails. Itachi jumped out like a typhoon. He was clearly mad. I knew immediately this fight won't end with an escape. So, you've changed your appearance to get back to the Leaf, and here I thought you'll be a missing nin forever. Your mom had hopes you might come and join her, he said. My mom, is she here? I asked him. No, not anymore. I killed the bitch before we came here. Does it make you wanna cry? He answered. No, I'm just sorry I didn't get the chance to get her myself. I hope you double-checked she's dead. I responded. I don't want that monster interfering with my life anymore, I continued. Itachi singled Kisame to start the attack. I was ready to his sword. I dodged him easily and stuck a kunai at his arm. I didn't even try to kill him, as he wasn't the dangerous one of them. So, you can beat him up, but do you stand a chance against me? Itachi opened his Sharingan eyes. He was trying to mentally attack me before going into closed-range combat. I closed my eyes and called the Kyuubi's power out. I felt the chakra through my ears and nose. I knew exactly where he was. I made a shadow clone and sent it at him. He used a fire jutsu to stop it. That was my opening. I had another clone jump at him from the ground. He dodged it, but he was already in my trap. A third clone used the Chidori on him. He caught him and directed the blow at the second clone. I had clones at the trees throwing shurikens at him. It was no problem for him to block them. It didn't matter. All I needed was the sound of him blocking it to know where he is. I used my final technique. I opened 4 of the celestial inner gates. The Kyuubi power burst even further into me. I jumped from tree to tree. At each bounce I hit him Itachi more and more. The lotus was a perfect move for me. I healed quickly from the side effects thanks to the fox demon. I held Itachi and crushed his body to the ground. He could barely stand up after the hit, but he wasn't planning on giving up. Kisame tried to attack me from the behind. I turned around and blasted him with the Rasengan. Blood spread on my clothes, but I didn't mind. I knew I could find an extra suit at the cabin. Itachi used that moment to create a handful of clones. Each of them smelled exactly like the real one. I used my own clones to counter that. I had much more clones than him. Only the real Itachi could avoid being hit by so many of them. I had transformed into Kisami's sword and had a clone pick me and the real sword up. The clone attacked Itachi. Itachi saw the 2 swords and thought he'll just hit them both and catch me. I was prepared for it. When he hit me I transformed back into myself. He didn't expect me to fight him with fists, so I gathered all the Kyuubi's strength and hit him. The punch tore his body down easily, as the limit's removal was still in effect. I cut off the head and changed my nin suit at the cabin. After that I headed to the Uchiha burial ground. War and Peace. I got there quickly. At the front there was a monument Sakura built after Sasuke died. I left the head near it. It was the first time I've been there. I couldn't go there before, as I knew that the reason he joined with Orochimaru was because I become stronger than him. I started running back to the village. It took me too long to finish my business. the council will ask me where I was and I'll make up some idiotic excuse about my incompetence as a shinobi. I was too focused about Finn. Ding, an acceptable excuse that I almost didn't hear the windmill shuriken coming from behind me. I avoided it on the last second, but I couldn't see who threw it, and I was in a bad spot. I heard two men going through the grass. Both adults. As they got closer to me I could hear it was a male and a female. They were shinobis. They were too fast to be anything else. I turned around and saw them. They weren't members of the Akatsuki organization. They were Tenten and Asuma from the Leaf Village. What are you? I saw your record. You're supposed to be a low-rated Junin with no exceptional abilities. But you still were able to get away from both of us. Do you know whose head that was? She asked. I already called for reinforcement. You better surrender now before you'll be in real troubles. Asuma tried to bluff me as if someone at the village was able to stop me, but I really was in trouble. My cover was blown. There was no way to get out of this situation. I couldn't just kill them if I was to let loose of my cover. It'll cause the same amount of problems. I could ran away again, but I wasn't going to leave without Hinata. It was a lose-lose situation for me. No right thing to do. A time-limited trick question. Like most of the event's progress, this one has turned from bad to worse quickly. The bad news came in the form of Ino, Sakura and Neji. So, what do we have here? A lying husband. I knew there was something wrong with you from the point I met you. You were too friendly with Hinata. Neji said. I knew what their plan was. They wanted to get my attention so Ino could take over my body. It was a dangerous thing to do, but I let my guard loose and allowed Ino to invade my mind. I had better luck escaping integration rooms than escaping other places. I woke up at the Leaf's torture room. Ibiki was there. So were all the Leaf's greatest. Shikamaru was in the back. After all his hard work I went and did something as stupid as this. I could hear their whisperings. So me wanted to kill me now before I tried to kill them. Some wanted to cut my muscles and then ask the questions. Some even suggested that Hinata was involved as well. The thought about her being torture. Ed was more painful than any of the above options. I wondered to myself, will my life end today? Will I finally die? Their decision came soon. They agreed they'll start by cutting my organs until I'm almost dead. After that they'll check what they can find from my body, and after that they'll finish me. Ibiki started by demonstrating the latest technology equipment at the torturing section on my body. It now included electric shocks and spinning hot nails inside my body. It took him over 20 hours to finish it. I couldn't move a muscle at that time. Then they began performing a surgery on me, checking what I ate, what I drank and when was my last injury and where did I break my leg. I allowed myself to sink deeper and deeper into the dark side of my brain. So, you got yourself caught again? The fox asked me. It seems to happen to you a lot lately. Why don't you just blow the place up and kill them all? I kept my silence. Oh, it's because of her, that main squeeze of yours, as better for you and her to stay away from each other, that way you would not gotten so damn hurt. I had to answer to that, and give up those moments. How can I even think about it? So what are you planning to do about it? Do you want them to kill you? Do you want her to cry for you? Didn't think so. So go and do something, damn it. He almost screamed. I understood what he wanted me to do. He wanted me to be the active force. Not the passive which things affect him. I had to be the one which affects things and causes them to move. Stop that. I'll tell you the truth. I said. They all turned their eyes to me. It was a do or die situation. It all depended on how good I could disguise the truth. There were a lot of people in the room, so each word will be tested by them. My name is Naruto. I started. I was born at the Leaf Village 26 years ago. I failed the academy 3 times and was a member of Kakashi's Team 7 along with Sakura and Sasuke. I didn't make it to be a Chunin at the first Exa. It was stopped at the middle. Tsunade jumped in. So you know his life story. Very impressive, but if you were him, I would kill you myself. What would you do in that case? She asked. I'd probably catch you and use you as a hostage while I'm escaping, or just kill you on the spot. It depends, I answered. Things weren't going to my favor now. The only chance I had was to talk to them in SM. All groups of less than 5 men each time, but there were over 30 of them in the room. I needed a miracle to have this incident to slide on. What happened next was not a miracle. Most of them called it a disaster. But it worked out good enough for me. The sound of the alarm pierced the room. apparently most of the shinobis busy in my interrogation and didn't notice more than half of the scouts were missing. The Anbu members were the first to get out of the room. After a second the first one came back to make his report. Sound nins, lots of them, invading the village. They have us surrounded. They all looked at me like I'm a sound. It was not impossible for them to think so. It was a good plan after all. Get the Leaf strongest to gather at the same place and then take control of the rest of the village. Orochimaru was a kind of guy to plan these things. It hit me suddenly. Hinata was out there. Focus. I screamed to them. This wasn't the time to get panicked. Gather in groups of 4. Have Tsunade and the Anbu stay here. We are going to drive them out of the Leaf. But first we have to guarantee the safety and the highest survival rate of the Leaf's residents. I talked to Boo. The Leaf's population, but all I could think about was Hinata's safety. Gather as much people and bring them here. Avoid any unnecessary conflicts with enemy shinobis. For now, just get as much as people here. I untied myself from the torturing device. The groups were getting ready. Sakura, use genjutsu to hide the entrance. We don't want the sound coming inside here. The groups organized immediately. I was getting ready to move out on my own and look for Hinata, but Shikamaru said to me, "She'll be fine if that's what worries you. She's an Hyuga elite. She can deal with this for now." You were right. We need to gather as much shinobis here and drive them out. He was saying the truth. She could hold her own ground for now. I was just being unreasonable. Let's move out. Shino, come with us. The bug freak sighted and came. We stormed out. The Leaf was in total chaos. The sound nins were all over the village. They just secured strategic points for now. They didn't start to kill everybody yet. It was the only chance we had to save the village. Shino, I'm gonna beat the crap out of the sound nin over there. I pointed at a sound which stood at a window of the academy. Send some bugs at him. When he runs away to report about us, we could follow the bugs to find out who leads the attack. He nodded at me. Not only that, we'll get to the source of the sound attack, we could also take back the academy. Sakura would have killed me if any of the students were hurt. I sneaked behind that sound. He was an amateur. He made some critical mistakes and made himself open for too many directions. I realized it's a trap the minute I got close to him. There were 7 nins at the room. They were waited for somebody to make the mistake I did. I tried to create a shadow clone, but my body refused to move. If you knew it's a trap, why couldn't you warn me about it? And why do you need to capture me as well? I asked. Well, if you knew about it, your storming in wouldn't have been so persuasive as this, and this room is dark. So my shadow it capturing everyone inside it, Shikamaru said. He started to crumble, as well as I. Shino's bugs attacked the sound, so all those who were connected by shadow to them crumbled too. After a minute they stopped trembling. They fell dead. Shikamaru drew back his shadow and I was released. You got bugs on him. I was referring to the shinobi which hasn't died yet. Yes. He'll be able to move again in a few minutes, and he'll go to report on us, and we'll be ready to follow him. Orochimaru, Shino replied. For now, let's get the students to the HQ. We moved down, like expected. The classrooms were empty. The Chunin teachers entered all the students to the shelters. It was the normal routine. When the village is under danger, the only responsibility of them was to get everybody at the academy to the shelters and wait until the village is safe again. Shikamaru hit a nearby bell 12 times, with a changing cooldown time between each ring. It probably was a code to inform the teachers inside about the situation. They opened the doors. Shikamaru sent me to safeguard the way back to the new HQ. Shino was ordered to defend the shelters while Ikamaru escorts the kids in small groups. It took us 20 minutes to get them all out. I had to kill 5 sound shinobis while the kids moved by. When we got to the new HQ, it was overcrowded with the Leaf's residents. I asked the 5th, did Hinata get here already? She ignored me completely. Shino already moved out with 2 new teammates. The 5th has called Shikamaru to her to plan the rest of the battle. I took off by myself. I knew I wouldn't be able to live with myself if I let Hinata get hurt now, so there is still some fire left inside of you. I was beginning to wonder how much time can you keep ignoring the desire for her. I heard the QB whispering inside my head. I ran outside. I didn't know what she was planning for today, so I decided to search all over the village. I jumped between roofs. I could still see some Leaf shinobis fighting or escorting the population to the HQ, but I couldn't see Hinata anywhere. I heard Shino's voice from behind me. Good, you're here. I got information about their location, ready to go. Sure, whatever, let's kick some sound butt, I said. My mind wasn't really focused on it, and besides, Orochimaru wasn't the type who would just sit and direct the attack, but even so. There was a large amount of sound nins gathering somewhere, and it was probably their center of the attack. How far away is it? I asked him. About 220 minutes from here, he answered. Could it be a decoy? I continued. Not entirely impossible, but we have enough troops around here to deal with the remaining sound forces. I still had my doubts about it, but he was right, staying the village was useless. Orochimaru would reveal himself at his own terms, we had to be ready to catch him when he does that. We moved out. Shino led us into the forest, bugs swarm around him as usual. They directed him to the place where the sound hid. Without the bugs we could wander there for days without noticing anything. Shino stopped suddenly. The bugs are going mad, I think we were trapped, it's honey all around us. I have to feed the bugs my chakra or they'll run outside to get the honey. I won't be able to help in this fight, he said and fell down. Get him back to the village. He'll get in the way of fighting. I told two Chunins who were with us. They started moving, both of them were hit when they tried to get away. Well, 7 shinobis, all of them strong, using Henj no Jutsu to change their appearance. Wearing identical clothes, knocking on the trees to communicate between them. I shouted to the rest of the leaf shinobis, none of them was anywhere close to the sound nin's level. Ooh, a perspective one. I thought that the bug man was the only one to worry about. They all talked together, making it impossible to find who was the leader. The leaf's shinobis weren't any good right now. It was 7 sounds against me, and I had to protect my group. The odds weren't in my favor. But then again, were the odds ever in your side? The QB said. He enjoyed this situation. A beast of destruction found these fights interesting. Maybe it was a leak of feelings from the seal, but I felt the same way. I was looking forward to fight the 7 of the. Guard your position. Don't move an inch without my order and protect Shino from them, I said to the team. I used my shadow clone no jutsu and started looking for the sounds. By having enough clones I could force them to strike different targets. And then I'll have them. Nice move, but how long can you keep this multitude of clones? Your chakra should get to its limit in 10 minutes, and after that you won't be able to defend yourself. They said together again, but this time tone of them said it a split second later. The meaning was that one of them was almost caught by my clone, and had to move back to stay hidden. And so he got the signal a bit later. I created another wave of clones. The sound shinobis knew that if this continues I'll catch them. I heard another knock on the trees. All the 7 tried to jump me. I blocked all their attacks. They used the same taijutsu style and moves. Their only trump card was the fact I couldn't tell them apart and couldn't focus on the weakest member. Yet, while I blocked their taijutsu, I could feel the strength difference between them. They all jumped at the same speed to confuse me, but I could tell some were capable of higher speed. What EY did was just the speed of the slowest one. They tried to tire me out before they resorted to their personal jutsus. Normally it would have been a useless strategy, but I had my share of fights and torture that day. But even after the long way and dodging all their attacks, I was still in a good shape and didn't show any signs of tiredness from the attack. I expected them to see it as well. Their move after that will be to go after the lesser ninjas, which they have ignored so far. I called all my clones back to me. They transformed to look like the Chunins and Shino. I shouted, start moving now. Get back to the village and report about this. I'll be back when I'm done with them. With all the clones, there were about 5 versions of each shinobi. To get a sure kill they'll have to spread and expose their openings to me. Good plan. If we do nothing they get away. If we try something together we are most likely to fail. If we try to attack alone you'll get at least one of us and all you lose will be a useless Chunin or 2. They said together again. They had time to retake their positions, but, they continued, you lost a great amount of chakra in order to secure their escape, so then if you have some sort of abnormal chakra source, you still must be momentarily tired. Only 2 of them were doing the talking. They were distracting me so the 5 others could attack me. I knew they'll do it. It was the most shinobiest thing to do. I wanted them to do it. It meant I could mark 5 of them now. They tried to jump me once again. I used my color spray no jutsu, using my chakra to change my blood into a stinky, non-washable liquid. which can become a color stain that you can't miss on somebody's shirt. I allowed them to cut me in non-vital areas. The blood spread on their nin suits. It meant I could now tell that those 5 apart from the other 2, and after a few more blood stains, I could identify each of them and tell his abilities. No way, they said, so that poor blow. Sea King's skills were not from a lack of stamina. How can you keep up? The knocking order was flawed. He didn't think straight. They didn't talk at the same time. Those Chunins should be far enough from us right about now. I guess I can call back the clones, I said. They all stopped moving. What are you? To keep all of them active for this long and still be standing, it's not possible, is it? I had a clone which came back to say, what if I told you that? Another clone said, not your average shinobi. Each clone that came back said a different word. If you want a to win, the clones kept coming back, each one saying his word and disappearing. You have to get serious and show me what you got. I finished the sentence. He then screamed something familiar, for that insolence. I'll give you death. They all tried to attack me, only one of them was fast enough to strike me. And it wasn't even strong enough to cause any damage. I was ready to get him, but my body just refused to move. I could barely stand up for some reason. It's your muscles, I cut them all. No more super speed and strength for you. Do you have something else? He laughed. I knew who he was now. Kabuto, ha. I defeated you once. I can do it again. Even if I wandered the past few years, I've still developed some jutsus of my own. I performed a few seals. It was a new ninjutsu I see. Read it to catch my enemies. That's it, I said. You're now officially dead. You can't move your body now, and soon it'll stop your senses, brain and heart activity. He managed to open his mouth. How? You didn't touch me. How can you use a medical jutsu from that distance? It's no medic jutsu, it's a unique chakra jutsu. I'm the only one who can use it. I send the QB's power into your body. But without the proper seal, the power will take over your body until you die. Then the chakra will scatter and reappear inside of me. It normally takes about an hour, but I'll kill you now with the aim jutsu I used before to finish you. I smiled to him. You, the Nine-Tails brat. Naruto. He didn't manage to end the sentence. My Rasengan already took his life. There were still those 6 sound nins to worry about. Without my speed they could get me easily. I was hoping my last attack scared them enough. I realized that I didn't hear them for quite a time. I wondered if they ran away already. I heard a shoe on a nearby branch. The shoe had a special sound which always made me smile. So that's where you are. I was starting to worry. She said, I was the one worried here. Where were you? I looked at her. She was carrying the 6. They were all in a near-death condition. Who was that? Hinata pointed at Kabuto's remains. I just settled some old score. How did you find me? I asked. When I got back to the village they told me to go to HQ. Then I heard that you exposed your true self. I had to listen to Tsunade's constant swearing at you. It was very embracing to act like it's a surprise. When she finally stopped to take a breath I got away. Shikamaru told me you went here with Shino and some Chunins. I met them on the way here. They said you fought all 7 of the sound to get them escape. Didn't you promise me that you'll stop with the hero acts? We both laughed. We started to move back to the village. You know, she said, your blonde hair is starting to grow back. You want me to dye it again? I asked her. No. You look better blonde than black. Maybe we'll also get somebody to fix your face again. She smiled. It took us 4 hours to get back to the leaf. I didn't think they'll kill me or exile me from the leaf again, but I could expect another douse of staring and pointing, especially after getting rid of my new modeled face. But you don't care about that. Do you? You were stared at all your life. Does it even matter to you anymore? The QB asked me. I guess I should get over it already. I said, that's right, who gives a damn about them? Oh, and I really liked how you blew that Kabuto guy up. So beautiful, he responded. When we got to the leaf we saw most of the shinobis cleaning the street from blood stains. I escorted Hinata to HQ. She wanted to drop the sound nins to interrogation. We went to check the hospital. Shino was still out. The bugs must have really eaten his chakra. Sakura was also there. She fainted from overusing her genjutsu. Kashi was sitting besides her. How is she? I asked. She's okay. K. Just tired. It looks you have got beaten up pretty good yourself. You should go and talk with Tsunade, she's really pissed off on you too. Don't wanna be in your place, he said, keep us informed on her. Hinata added, we went to see Tsunade. The moment we stepped inside the room she started to scold us, you, and you. What did you think you were doing? I should, after what you did, how could you dare? Crazy, stupid, insane. Idiots, what went through your mind? After a few hours, she finally stopped talking. How long was it this time? Hinata asked me. Don't know, I faded out pretty early, what about you? I answered. She started to repeat herself when she got to the part where she tells us what she thinks about us. I stopped listening at the third time she called us stupid. We both laughed. We met Lee and Ino on the way. They were both visiting Sakura, but it seems that Lee had too much sake and started declaring his love for Sakura all over the hospital, so the staff sent Ino to take him back home. Both of them completely ignored me and what happened today. It was their way to get over the shock of the attack. And the surprise of me being back at the Leaf. I realized that I was just an old memory for them. The Naruto they remembered was a 15-years-old hyperactive idiot. They wanted to see me like that again. The new me was too different for the Leaf. Well, they'll grow to like you again, Hinata said. She knew me well enough to guess what I was thinking. You'll just have to stay around until they get used to you. You have a too loud personality to ignore. I smiled at her. She was right. I proved my worth to the Leaf, and I was Hinata's husband. They couldn't just whip me out, and I was pretty sure they rather have me under check than on the loose, even if it meant they'll have to see me each day. Months passed since that attack. I was assigned as a freelance Junin for time being. I did a few missions each month. I had given some classes and looked over tests at the academy, but I had no real duties, so most of my day was free. One day, I saw Sakura walking around. It was at her work hour. So I asked her where she was going. Don't you know? The Leaf is recruiting kids today. All the teachers went out. Didn't you notice the academy is closed? She said, oh, sounds nice. Do you mind if I'll join you? I suggested. No problem. I was planning to ask you anyway. You'll grow fat if you keep sitting there and do nothing all day, she replied. There were 6 villages on the list. All we had to do was to pass by and gather some kids. Most of those kids were grandsons of Leaf's village members, which their parents had no talent as a shinobi, so they lived outside of the village. Half of Hem already visited the Leaf village and already had a bit of training. The rest were the problematic kids, either the ones who dreamt about being a shinobi, or the ones that wandered around the village and were sent to the ninja academy so they won't start causing problems around. I forgot about the last group. It wasn't that I forgot, it was more like I didn't want to think about them. They were the orphans of the fallen Leaf shinobis. They lived near the village, but I never went there. I hated that place. It was where I grew up. The place looked as horrific as it was when I left. The walls were as dusty as ever. The sound of the doors reminded me how I was alone when the others had visits from their parents' friends and relatives. I touched the wall. Just as cold as it used to be, huh? The QB said. I didn't know about him when I lived there. The place hasn't changed. Do you think you've changed enough to step inside? He asked. It was exactly as I remembered. The kids may have changed, but it felt the same. It was a painful part of my past. I took a deep breath and stepped inside. I walked through the empty hallways. I quickly found the place where my room used to be at. Now I noticed it was the most remote one, hidden behind many turns and stairways. It was left untouched since I left. It was no surprise. I realized that they have already isolated me those days. My room was 70 meters far from the next room. They haven't used it before I came and didn't use it after I moved out. I looked inside. All my things were still there. A copy of a magazine from the Lee F within column full of advices how to become a respectful shinobi. I read those advices again and again. They made me think that once I become a top ninja, I wouldn't be looked down anymore. Without them I would never dream about becoming the Hokage. I looked through the window. I could see the 5 faces of the Hokage. On the window there were some engravings of mine. From my old bed it looked like my face was also on that mountain. Each night I looked at the window until I fell asleep. I marked my goal and kept it in front of me those days. I went out to meet Sakura. 7 kids followed her. Why were old enough to enter the ninja academy now. most of them wouldn't come here again, and they'll be too busy with their own dreams and lives. Time kept on passing. Tsunade's health condition was getting worse each day. It was because of that Gensis jutsu. It shortened her life rapidity. She couldn't keep her young image anymore. She was supposed to choose the sixth, but every time someone asked her about it, she shouted at him or ignored him. I had no hopes about her choosing me. We weren't in a good relation for the past years, mostly because I always left the village and snack back in, or tea. I threatened to kill her more than once. Women never forget those things. I was happy with my life. I was married, Hinata was pregnant, I could finally walk around the village without being stared at. My life were great. Better than I ever imagined. Hokage was just a childhood dream for me. That hag could make Konohamaru the sixth for all I mattered, not that he would accept the title so fast. He was just what everyone thought I would be. He would have probably make me fight him before he accepts it. Even if the Hokage doesn't have to be the strongest shinobi in the leaf, it was only per to make sure the selected Hokage is really the best man for the job. The fifth has died later that month. Without choosing a Hokage, the decision was left to the council. I didn't mind that, I knew. They'll announce the sixth when they decide on one. My guess was Ibiki or another of the three legendary Sanin's pupils. It was part of the tradition. The Hokage was always trained by the previous Hokage or another high-leveled shinobi. In a way, it was almost a monarch. Most of the Hokages were related by blood to previous Hokages. A year passed. My daughter was already born. Her name was decided by Hinata's family to be Karen. She was named after the first female leader of the Hyuga clan. The original Karen has established the Hyuga as the greatest in the leaf. It wasn't a name that would be given easily. It was their way to show they trust us to raise her to stand to Karen's performance, even if they'll never say it in public. To be continued, and thank you for watching.